conquering fear and performing with confidence under pressure. Doing your best when it matters the most. This is very important because a lot of people, when they get into sell situations, sometimes they'll get afraid, sometimes they will not know what to do, and we call this the fight, flight, or freeze syndrome. So fear is sometimes one of the most misunderstood and dreaded feelings people have. So we're going to be getting today talking about this, and we're going to cover some of the stuff that the Navy SEALs do to address this issue. But fear is a very powerful feeling, and there's a quote that's out there that, the only thing to fear is fear itself, because fear can stop you dead in your tracks. But the most successful people in life have learned to control these feelings. This is something that can be taught. For some, it might take a while, but you can master fear if you want to. In this session, we talked about how to manage and control fear and get it to work for you. Yes, the feeling of fear and stress can work for you when you understand what's going on in your mind and body. So I make this statement here is because a lot of people don't realize that fear can actually work in your favor when you understand it. So, but to understand it, you have to know what's going on psychologically in your brain and also what chemically is going on in your body. The reaction to fear starts in your brain. So when you get in a situation that's fearful, the body has natural responses to situations that it deems fearful or stressful. Your body will kick into a certain mode. So what will happen is that your body goes through these adjustments so that you'll either be in a fight, flight, or freeze, basically protect yourself mode. The fear response first starts in the region of the brain called the amygdala. So this part of the brain is used in detecting how much someone stands out to us, or how much something stands out to us and causes us an emotion. It is activated whenever you're faced with emotions, good or bad. In the case of a threatening, fearful situation, it triggers stress hormones to the nervous system. So let's get into this. This release of chemical causes the body to change and prepares us to be more efficient when we are faced with danger. The brain becomes very alert. Your pupils dilate, and your breathing accelerates. Your heart and blood rate pressure also rise. Blood flow also increases to the skeletal muscles, and organs that are not vital to your survival slow down. When all this happens, the body can begin to shake because of all the increased chemicals and adrenaline being released in the body. I'm sure that everyone on this phone has gone through this at one time in your life. So what happens is that you'll get into a situation and maybe it's public speaking, or maybe you're going to be talking to someone that's, it's a really important sale, or it's a fearful situation, and your body will go through this reaction. This reaction actually happens to everyone, and when people that don't understand it, they'll either run, they'll freeze, they call it the fight or flight, or they'll start, they'll start fighting, and because you're really trying to protect yourself because you feel in harm's way. And it can happen in stressful situations. But those who are trained and ready for this experience can fight at a higher level. Fear can be conquered if you understand the human response to it, how to confront these fears head on. So, when I was younger, I did a lot of public speaking, and I was totally afraid of public speaking. And it took me some time to really conquer that. And I'm going to get in here with some details. We're going to talk about the Navy SEALs, how they deal with this. So courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the mastering and the conquering of fear. You might be saying to yourself, "This is exactly me. When I'm in a fearful or stressful situation, my body and my mind start acting like this, and I lose my confidence. I don't perform well under this kind of pressure. I know my stuff, but under the pressure, I choke." A lot of people, let's say it's a big event, like they're a gold medalist or they're someone that is going to be operating at a high athletic level or competition, that they could be really good in practice, but they don't understand when they get in the moment, when the cameras are on them and there's a lot of the pressure, and it really matters the most that they choke because their body goes through this situation, goes through these responses, and they're not ready for it. So the ones that do well in those situations understand what's about to happen with their body, and they're able to take control of it. So what happens sometimes, like maybe you're in a situation or in a cell situation, and sometimes you just freeze up. or you get nervous, and people can see this nervousness, which makes you even more nervous. So controlling your fears, knowing what is going to happen in your brain and body in advance is half the battle. The second half of the battle is knowing exactly what to do when you feel this taking place. The Navy SEALs are some of the most courageous warriors on the planet, and they still feel the same thing everyone else feels. They have just learned and been trained to do when this occurs. So we're going to get into this. Navy SEALs are trained to increase their mental toughness with the ultimate purpose of controlling their fears and being able to appropriately respond in panic in situations. The technique they use is called the Big Four. This is something I got from Navy SEAL training. This is something they teach all the Navy SEALs, that when they're in training, this is something they teach them how to master and conquer their fears. The first one out of the Big Four is know your why. So when you're there, you have to know your higher purpose. Having a higher purpose brings everything into perspective. You have to put the situation under the right light and know why you were there. In sales, you were there to make a living and have a better life and help others. So this is very important, because when you have a higher purpose, this helps you put it in perspective. And like in sales, you're there to better your life. Maybe some people got into the Navy SEALs because they want to make a difference in the world. They want to fight bad guys. So knowing that and having them in there, that pushes them through that moment where some people that don't have a higher purpose, they cave under pressure. Another thing is the mental rehearsal, which we went into before in the last one. But remember, in the last section, we were taught about mental rehearsals in your brain. Your brain cannot tell the difference between what you have rehearsed and what's actually happened. So if you've done enough mental rehearsals, you've already been there and know what to do and how to operate out of this knowing. The more mental rehearsals you have done, the more confident you'll be. This is probably one of the biggest secrets that people don't understand. But if you can really understand this, and a lot of people are like, oh, that's hogwash, or I don't believe in that. But when you get into this and you start doing it, this is really a big secret. The mental rehearsals and the ability, when I went into that story with Captain Jack Fellows, he hadn't been able to play golf for 6 years because he was in prison, and he just kept practicing over and over again. And when he got in the situation and was able to play golf for the first time after being released in 6 years, he shot par. And they were totally amazed how he's able to do that. But he's able to do it because he says, it was just like me because I've been there so many times. So when you put yourself in those situations over and over again, the Navy SEALs have a term for it. It's called habituation, which we'll get into later in just a moment. But it's putting yourself there. You can actually mentally put yourself there, and your mind doesn't know the difference. That's what dreaming's all about. That's why you can wake up from a dream and it feels like, wow, like totally real. I felt like it was actually happening. Okay, so the next one, self-talk, which we also talked about this one, but this is something the Navy SEALs practice. In the third session of the series of training, we have taught about the 3 stages to the sale. In all these stages, it's important what you are saying to yourself. These stages are anticipation, action, and reinforcement. You should be saying things like to yourself like, I've got this. I am well prepared. I love selling. I am great at what I do. If something comes up and I'm not expecting, I'll figure out what to say and do. No matter what happens, I am an unstoppable sales agent. This type of talking to yourself is what confident people do. Remember, you cannot allow yourself to entertain one negative thought. Negativity steals confidence, which will bring fear to you. So if you have bad self-talk, what happens in fear is fear's talking to you, and it's painting mental images to you. So you have to control that, and you have to force your mind to say these things. And the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and it'll become a part of your life. If you're not used to doing it, it's something, it might take you a lot of work, because fighting your inner self is probably going to be one of the biggest battles you ever have. But if you can control your mind and your self-talk, you can control your fears. Okay, the fourth one out of what the Navy SEALs teach out of the Big Four, this one's really important. This is really important when it comes to the reactions you are having in your body. Remember, your body's going through different reactions. Your heart rate's speeding up, your breathing's increasing, and sometimes the feeling of that causes a lot of stress. So what you have to do, you have to have some techniques to get your body to slow down. And one of these is to focus on your breathing. So what you want to do is what they call 4x4x4. First, you take in a deep breath. hold your breath, and then release your breath for 4 seconds. So you take in a deep breath for about 4 seconds, you hold it for about 4 seconds, and then you release it in about 4 seconds. You slow yourself down. You take a deep breath. Remember, your body's still having these reactions. So the reason why this is important and the reason this works is that it relaxes the body, and this is how you breathe when you are in REM sleep. And sleep is a relaxing state of mind. So when you start breathing at that level, it starts to relax you. So controlled breathing is very, very important. Also, your brain needs the oxygen. Your brain recognizes breathing. It helps to calm the nerves. Now your subconscious mind can kick in and just do what you have been trained and rehearsed to do. This type of breathing relaxes you. Just remember to slowly inhale, hold, and slowly exhale. Your brain needs the oxygen to function proper. This right here has helped me. There's been many times. I've had a situation where I was going to meet this guy that made $400 million with this company, and this actually happened like about a month ago. And I went in there to meet him, and I just wanted to meet him, talk to him, and we'd introduced ourselves on LinkedIn, and I was looking, we might be doing business together, so I thought I'd go in there and meet him. And I wasn't even thinking that I would get nervous or something, but all of a sudden I'm there in the meeting, and for some reason my body started reacting this way. I'm like, why am I reacting this way? So I thought, well, my body's considering this a stressful situation, because I wanted to visit them, and then it could make a big difference in what I was doing if I could get the guy's business. So it became stressful for me. So what I did is I just sat there. I recognized what was happening in my body. I took a few deep breaths. I practiced this breathing right there. And I was able to control the situation, and the guy never knew I had any level of nervousness. So I have personally used these things. I use them on a regular basis. I do a lot of public speaking, and these things have helped me a lot to get through. This is, like I said, this is what the Navy SEALs teach, because they're put into situations over and over again. So remember how I said, now let's get back. At the beginning of the teaching that you can use fear to your advantage by getting to work for you. So let's go back over what happens again. So in your mind and in your body, what's happening? You're having reactions. There's chemicals being released in the mind, right? You're feeling a fearful or stress situation. These chemicals are causing your body to go through reactions. Your mind's getting more alert. Your pupils are getting dilated. And all this is, this is why sometimes people shake before or after, is because of these chemicals that are taking place. So remember, I said this can work for you. Okay, so you know exactly what your mind and your body is going to do in a stressful situation. You know these things are going to occur. If you know the big four and walking prepared, your mind and body will be at a heightened state because of adrenaline. So what's happening, you actually want it in this state when you're under pressure, because it can help you perform at a higher level. Did you just catch what I just said? A lot of people are afraid of these reactions in their body. They don't understand it. But when you understand what's actually going on, that these chemicals are there to actually help you perform at a higher level. So like sports players that understand it, like Michael Jordan, it helped him to get in the zone and perform and do way better than he could do without those chemicals being released. Your body naturally moves blood flow and adrenaline that helps you operate at a higher level than what you could normally operate. When you master this, you will look forward to stressful situations and take the bull by the horn. You know that those chemicals are there, and your body responses are there to help you perform. You begin to use the adrenaline rush in your favor. Some people even get addicted to this feeling. We call them adrenaline junkies. Others will see your fearlessness and great abilities and respect you. Business owners buy from people and companies they respect. So what actually happens, the feeling that you're afraid of, that feeling is actually something, when you understand it, it's your best ally in the moment. And you can actually use that heightened awareness to perform and do way better than you ever could. You can walk out. And this is when people get this way, this is where they start to excel at whatever they do. And they start to really look forward to this feeling actually happening, rather than them being afraid of it. And so people that are not used to it, those are the ones that run or they freeze. The ones that understand this use this adrenaline in their favor, and they actually get addicted to it and like it. And you can get to where you even like being in those situations. You're like, wow, because you can do so much better than you could have done without it. Now, here's another thing to remember. You also have to remember the business owner may be going through the same feelings of fear and anxiety. They actually might be afraid too. Remember I talked about when you become fearless, you have to remember others might be fearing you. And so here you are afraid of them, but they're actually afraid of you. They actually might be more fearful than you. They may not have the training you have, and they choke under the pressure. The way you handle this can make all the difference in the world. You have to put them at ease. The business owner will respect you, and your colleagues will also respect you as they see your calm, cool, and collected manner when it is needed the most. But either way, you will be successful because you know how to carry yourself in situations others fear. So when you get this way and you become bold, you actually become the one they fear. Or maybe others walk in, and then you're having fun, and you'll actually see people go through these reactions, and you'll understand, wow, they're afraid. So you want to help them in a sales situation. You want to help them ease the fear, but they'll be like, wow, this person, because maybe you're doing a presentation in front of a board meeting, and that could be stressful or fearful, or public speaking, or maybe it's just a big sell you would like to nail, or it's a really big client. And you're talking with a mover and a shaker, and that sell could make a big difference to you. We're about ready to bring on a new product here in Agora, and the commissions are very high. So when you get in those situations, you do not want to be, in fear. Maybe you're talking to a city mayor or councilor or owner of a really big business or chain, or maybe they're famous. You definitely want to make sure you know how to control your fears. Okay, so let's talk about habituation. This is a really important term. This is very important to the Navy SEALs. Habituation is a psychological learning process where there is a decrease in response to stimulus after being repeatedly exposed to it. Okay, so let's get into this. Simply put, the more you do something and are exposed to a situation, the less you will fear it. So habituation is you're habitually doing something, or you're habitually putting yourself in that situation. The Navy SEALs understand this concept and just keep putting themselves in the situation over and over again until they fully know what to do and face the fear long enough, it diminishes. If they are afraid of heights or jumping out of a plane, guess what they do? They jump out of a plane over and over again. They're not only facing their fears, they are taking them head on. Some people who are afraid of public speaking have joined Toastmasters just so they can speak on a regular basis. This is taking fear head on over and over again. So people that don't understand how to conquer their fears, they run. They run away from the fears, and it just makes matters worse. The more you're in a sales situation, the less you fear or anxiety you'll fear if you have practiced everything being taught to you. Eventually, you'll begin to feel very comfortable in this environment and excel. Remember, mental rehearsals actually help with habituation because, remember, your mind can't tell the difference. So if you can't be in enough sales situations, then you can mentally put yourself there over and over again. What I'll do if they say this, you practice different objections. What happens if this happens? What if they do this? What if they do that? So you're mentally preparing yourself and you're learning. And if you're in this state of mind, you're continually learning, then it's called habituation. You're habitually there. Like, when I first started doing a lot of public speaking, I was very fearful. I remember just before I was going to speak one time as a kid in front of 500 people, and I was just petrified. And I just got up there, but then I went and I started teaching Sunday school, and I started doing it on a regular basis. And then I was a PE teacher, and then I just started speaking in front of people all the time. And it just got where, it's like riding the bike. You do it so much, you just get used to it. So habituation is really important. Putting yourself in the situation over and over again. Some people are afraid of getting stuff in the mail, so they'll put it off to the side. What you want to do is you want to go to the mailbox, you want to grab that, you want to open your bills up, or you want to look at them and face it head on. And the more you do that, the less and less the fear will have power over you. So just putting yourself in the situation over and over again, you can get where you master it and it goes away. And people that learn this become very strong and courageous. And like, how'd you get that way? Well, I practiced I know what was at my body. I practiced these big four principles. And then I just did it over and over again, and I got to where I'm just bold and courageous. And this is where bold and courageous people become like that. You know, they don't always start out that way. It's not like they never had fear. They just learn how to conquer it. You know, a lot of people always make this, you know, I made this statement right here. You know, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the mastering and conquering of fear. You know, you can hear all these quotes, and you know, and they sound good. You know, and even someone made the statement. You know, fear is false evidence appearing real. Well, that's actually not a true statement because it's not false evidence. Some people are in real fearful situations, maybe for their life, or maybe you know that big sale being on the line can make the difference of you making money or not. So, you know, it's not false evidence. It's actually real evidence. So I don't like that acronym because you are, you know, so you hear these statements and you'll hear a lot of great quotes in there. You know, we quoted this one right here, but it's getting into it. You know, I'm showing you actually how to conquer your fear, how the Navy SEALs do it, how like Michael Jordan. That's why I talk about these people, or gold medalists. We talk about these people because they've operated at the highest level, and they do this at a more concentrated effort. Where you know the average person doesn't think about it; they just roll through life, and they don't realize that there's ways of thinking. That's why self-help is so important, because when you get into these the self-help and you start understanding this, that you change your thought process, you change who you are, you understand your mind, you understand your body, and you don't have to succumb to fear like other people do. And a lot of people, you know, they never address these issues or face these issues, but you know, you really can conquer fear, and it's not that it goes away. You actually use the adrenaline, you know, in your favor. So I would recommend that you go back to this whole series. You'll see how it all ties together. When you learn how to master each of these trainings, you will truly become an unstoppable Agora sales agent. So I want to get into one final thought here before we end this training session on fear. And this can, you know, these trainings can not only help you as a sales agent, but these can also help you just in life. So life and experience comprise only 10% of what happens to us, and the other 90% is how we mentally think about what has happened, is happening, and is going to happen to us. A lot of fear and anxiety has been created in people by past, present, and future experiences. So let me give you an example. A person gets in a car accident when they're 10 years old, and then their whole life they're afraid to drive in cars, and they never get their driver's license because they were in an accident when they were 10. They got injured. Maybe they got their leg broken or something bad happened. So then that controls them mentally the rest of their life. But it only happened one time. Now, how many people have been in car accidents and got over it? They could have gotten over it. They just chose they didn't want to get over it, but it affected them mentally. And then they say to themselves, I'll never do that again because, you know, this is what happened and I don't want to do this. And it controls them their whole life, and it controls their thinking. But it only happened one time. And we see this over and over again. And the people, you know, that have something bad happen to them, that they can either sit there and live in fear mentally, or they can learn to face that. Maybe they were attacked one time or got beat up. Well, that person maybe go study some martial arts training and, you know, and learn how to fight. You know, I went through that because, you know, I've been in a situation before, and I thought, you know, I want to learn martial arts. So I went and learned martial arts. Now I'm not afraid of being in a situation that's physical. If you're going to be strong mentally and conquer fear, you have to forgive and learn from your past, prepare for the present, and have hope and faith for the future. So it happens, something happens in the past. Presently, they're afraid of driving in cars, so maybe they just live in their house all the time, and then they project in their future it's going to happen again. Well, it may not happen again. And if it did, you could prepare for it to what I would do if it did happen. So you're not dominated in, you know, or maybe you publicly spoke one time and you froze and you got embarrassed, or maybe you were going to do a big sale and you started shaking. Everyone saw you shaking, and so you thought, I'm going to do, you know, and so you never really conquer that. So negative thinking can bring a lot of unwanted pressure and fear into someone's life. Some people fear what happened in their past will happen again. Others feel they will fail in the present, while others dread bad things happening for their future, even if it's a month or year away. The reality is we really can't and don't control everything that happens to us in our life. Cars break down, bad things happen, weather can go crazy on us, and business owners may just have too much going on to buy at that moment. A lot of fears generated me are just thinking about the problem and not the solution. People who think more about the solutions and less about the problems they're facing have less fear. So what happens is when you're in this situation, you're only thinking about the problem. And when you're just problem-minded thinking and not solution-minded thinking, it can bring a lot of fear to you. So the way you conquer that is you start thinking more about the solution. Okay, I was in a car accident. What happened again? Well, maybe I get a safer car, or maybe I take more. I get my driver's lessons, or if I do get in a situation, I mentally rehearse what I'm going to do. I have my insurance. I have this. I have a safe car. We have to remember that although we cannot control everything that happens to us in a day, we can control how we prepare for situations, control our thoughts about situations, and control our attitudes about situations. That's what you do have control over. So no, you can't control, if something's going to happen in a day. There's unforeseen events that can happen. So I'm going to make a statement to you, and I hope you can fully understand this. Whatever happens was supposed to happen. This is a very, very powerful statement, because in life we have no control. Like, Captain Jack Fellows had no control over the fact that his plane was going to get shot down. He'd be in prison for 6 years, which, if you were to think about that, that might be very scary to someone, fearful, but it did happen to him. He had no control over to it. But when it did happen, he did learn a lot about mind control. And look, I'm even teaching you some of the stuff that came out of what he learned during that 6 years. And as bad as that was, he took it as a positive. He got to meet the president. He got to be an influence, and he got to teach others because of what happened there, being stuck in a box. He was able to take that bad situation and turn it around in his favor, and now it became a life story, and he's able to change a lot of lives out of that. When you understand this, you can free yourself from fear. You are free from the fear of the unknown. The reason this thought can free you from fear is that you are no longer dreading bad things happening, but rather preparing your mind for them if they do occur, and they may not even occur. Just if something does occur, right? When you're mentally tough, you can take any bad situation and make it good. If you have bad weather, good. Maybe you're supposed to stay home and work on learning more skill sets or set up more future sales calls. If your car breaks down, good. It's going to get fixed and run better than ever. If the business owners say they're not ready to buy, good. You will take that as a learning lesson, and you will make a new friend. Either way, it's all good. If you just keep yourself in this way of thinking, that I will take whatever situation and I will make it work out for good. If whatever happened was supposed to happen. One time I was speaking in front of a group of people, and this is when I was just learning to, I was learning about social media. This is like back in 08, 09, and I was pretty good at what I did. I was helping people with their internet marketing, but I still was a little new. But I was speaking in front of about 50 people, and it's a bunch of real estate agents. And in the middle of it, one of the real estate agents said, "Oh, it just sounds like you're throwing a bunch of stuff against the wall." Well, the person that invited me to speak tried to cover it up, and I got in that situation. And as bad as it seemed, because here I'm supposed to be the public speaker, know what I'm talking about, I get through the situation. Rather than get mad at the guy for embarrassing me publicly, I thought, like I said, why did he have to say it publicly right in the middle of me speaking, right? Well, I thought about it, and I said, you know what, maybe if that guy thought that, I must not have done a good enough job. So what that did is it really made me research and even get better at internet marketing. I started to talk to other people. I started doing more research, more study. And out of it, I wrote a book. I got all those SPACs, and I started talking to people that were having great success. And I actually turned that situation in my favor, and I'm actually glad that happened. Now, that's something that you really, when you're a public speaker, you don't want to have to be challenged publicly, especially when you look like an expert. But I got to the point where I knew that I knew my stuff, and I could be challenged. I never had that response anymore. Then people's responses started changing, like, wow, this person really knows his stuff. I took that bad situation, and I turned and I worked it in my favor. When you come to grips with this, you'll have one of the most powerful mindsets on the planet. You will be finding ways to turn every experience to your advantage. This mindset can change the course of history and turn any situation into something positive. Unstoppable sales agents have the ability to turn things around because of this type of thinking. They are no longer victims of circumstances, but rather they are victorious at whatever life throws at them. You also never burn bridges because of a bad attitude. Remember, the same client that said no today might say yes tomorrow, but only if they respect how you carried yourself when you said no today. Now check this out. It has even happened where a business owner said no to a sales rep, and when they saw how they handled it, changed their mind on the spot and bought from them. Did you catch that? I've seen it where a salesperson will go in, make a presentation. The business owner will be like, no, I don't think so. The sales rep has a great attitude, just stays there and keeps talking to the person and doesn't even think, they actually think they lost the sale, but they didn't have a bad attitude. On the way out, the business owner would say, you know what, come back here. What do you have? I like you. Let me see. And ended up buying from them, even after they said no in the same moment. When you have the right attitude, you're not walking in fear and you're accepting more of what's going on and how your response is to be, and I'm going to learn from this and have a good attitude. This is the difference of an unstoppable sales agent and an average one. An average one would go in there, get mad, get upset, walk out frustrated. Well, fine, be that way. And then the business, wow, I'm glad I didn't buy from that person. And then they think it's the business owner, really it was you the whole time. And then, I've just seen where, because they'll be frustrated, or I've even seen it where a business owner didn't show up to a meeting. And I've seen these sales reps get attitudes like, well, man, he's not respecting my time. He's not respecting my time. He's not deserving of my business. Well, maybe the guy had a car accident. Maybe he had a problem with maybe there was an emergency that happened. It's not always, or sometimes they actually just forgot and it was bad character. And so what I've learned, especially when I did Yellow Pages, I got stood up a number of times. Well, I had a good attitude. They would feel bad that they stood me up. And I would see other reps get up mad, get upset, and they would never do business with that person ever again, where I just said, you know what, stuff happens. And then they would call me, or I'd call them back up, say, hey, I know, stuff happened. Oh, Vince, I'm so sorry, I forgot, And then because they felt bad, they would really listen to me, and they wanted to buy from me because of how I handled it. Or maybe they were late, and, I had a good attitude. What, I really appreciate your patience. Here, what do you have to say? But if you're impatient, you're upset, at life, then the person goes, wow, I'm glad I'm not buying from that person. And they don't realize it's really the sales rep. Stuff happens in life. But, when that stuff happens, if you have the right attitude, you're not afraid of them not showing up or afraid of this occurring, whatever happens, it was just supposed to happen. But, but my response to it, I have control over that. And if I have a good response, I can turn the whole thing around. And this is what makes an unstoppable sales agent, more powerful than your regular one. They're not afraid of things happening. They don't live in fear of, of circumstances. They have a good attitude. They keep the right mindset, and that's why people want to buy from them. You become an unstoppable Agora sales agent. We can't allow ourselves to live in fear. We have the ability to arm ourselves with powerful ways of thinking. These powerful ways of thinking will make you mentally tough. Others will see this mental toughness about you and want to work, buy, and learn from you. You can conquer your fears. So if you go over everything that we taught here, you change your attitude about fear, and you do what the Navy SEALs do, and you practice these big four. You can do research on this. I'm just helping you guys tap into some of the ways of thinking out there. It's really important you understand what's going on in your body, because your body, that's never going to go away. Some people think when you conquer fear, my body will no longer have those responses. That's not true. You'll always have those responses. Those responses are something that just occurs. So what you want to do is you want to learn those responses, and how do I respond to those responses, and use those bodily responses to your advantage. And when you do that, you'll be doing your best when it matters the most. You're conquering your fear and performing with confidence under pressure. Thank you very much, and I hope this helped everyone.